I was rather set on a bath and a flagon of wine.
The drink takes the pain away, dulls your mind.
I am but a man. The dragons are God.
I drink and I know things. That's what I do.
Welcome back to Flagons and Dragons. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth. And if you've been in a dragon accident, I should be your first call, especially for DWI, dragon riding while intoxicated. I'm looking at you, Ulf, and I'm here at Magnum Mills to discuss the season 2 finale of House of the Dragon, titled "The Queen Who Ever Was." How you doing tonight, Mills?
I'd be better if we were discussing this as episode 8 out of a 10 episode season, but we're going to hold back on that for a minute while I tell you thanks for checking out Flagons and Dragons presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on the internet at dudeswatchstuff.com. Nice and easy to remember, just like the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, make sure you hit that thumb. Get ready to do a finale thing.
And this is the part of the show where I tell you this is a full-on spoiler jam. From this point forward, spoilers will be happening. All aired episodes of House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones are fair game for our discussion, as is literally anything you could possibly think about the show. We'll avoid major book spoilers from Fire and Blood, but there will be some reference to the book. And if you don't know, now you know.
This is The Queen Who Ever Was, Season 2, Episode 8, the 18th overall episode of House of the Dragon, the Season 2 finale, originally aired August 4th, 2024, directed by Geeta Vasant Patel. This is the third episode of Hot D she's directed after Season 1, Episode 8, Lord of the Ties, and Season 2, Episode 3, The Burning Mill, written by Sarah Hess. This is her fourth written by credit on House of the Dragon. Guest starring, they didn't want to pay up for Emilia Clarke, so nobody pretty much here. No special guest stars on this one. And the basic plot summary is, in the Vale, Rhaena searches for the wild dragon. She eventually finds it, but we don't find out what happens. Tywin Lannister agrees to a deal with the Triarchy to break the blockade in return for ownership of the Stepstones. Aemon and Vhagar burn down Sharp Point, leading to Larry Strong sneaking Aegon out of King's Landing. Alicent asks Helaena if she wants to leave, while Aemon asks her to ride Dreamfire into battle, but Helaena declines both offers. Corlys tries to connect with Alan, but fails when Alan confronts him about the challenges he endured growing up as a bastard. Rhaenyra hosts dinner for the new dragon riders as she attempts to prepare them for what comes next. Rhaenyra flies to Harrenhal, where Daemon finally bends the knee to her after another series of visions. Rhaenyra returns to Dragonstone, where she's visited by Alicent, who agrees to give up Aegon and open the city gates for Rhaenyra in 3 days' time. As the episode ends, all sides prepare for battle, and we get glimpses of the various armies and fleets, as well as an imprisoned Otto Hightower. That's where he's been.
Apparently so. Let's stick to the script here and just start out with our overall thoughts on the episode. Mills, there were a lot of things about this episode that I liked, and I don't want to be super critical, so I'm going to approach it from just the episode, right? The episode itself, not the fact that it was a season finale, but the episode itself. And I'm going to say that I liked the episode. I thought it did a great job, kind of again setting up something that's just beyond epic. This is like, dude, they're holding out and they're just going to let it rip here. And when it does, it is going to peak and explode, and you can't wait for it. And they've done that all season. And I think you're kind of like, we're getting closer, we're getting closer, we're getting closer. I thought the stuff with Damon was absolutely top notch. It was awesome. Like I really, 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 really liked that stuff. I enjoyed that. The flashback scene, that whole kind of him coming of age there, and get that scene with him with all the men behind him in Harrenhal with Rhaenyra. I thought all that was great. Really enjoyed kind of seeing more of the Vale and getting to meet that dragon for the first time. I wish we would have got a little bit more there. And then ultimately just kind of trying to find out what's happening with the new Dragon Riders and what the strategy is, both on Black and Team Green. All in all, I thought it was a really good episode of television. Again, it looks good. All those things we take for granted, but I'm just going to say it was a good episode. Maybe not my favorite season finale that we have to wait 2 years to fucking see.
Right. Let's say I'll stick to it kind of from an episodic point of view, and then we'll talk about how it functioned as a finale in a minute. Like you said, as always, it looks great. Probably ran a little bit long. Maybe a weird decision to throw all the Tywin Lannister stuff and Essos over there. And I've been asking for more fun. Conceptually, I don't mind that. Just a weird choice to put it in here in a finale when kind of people had different expectations. And it was the longest episode of the show to date. So I think that is one spot where they could have trimmed it up a little more. Same thing with Rhaena. The random cuts back to her almost do nothing. Maybe just save the shot for the montage at the end. I don't even know if you needed the other stuff in there. And let's be honest here, I don't know. It kind of really kills your suspension of disbelief that Alice and Rhaenyra keep meeting like this. But I understand why. The actresses are great. They have great chemistry. The show wants to put them together. They're trying to frame the entire show as kind of around the relationship of these two women. I don't have any problem with that. It just belies belief that this kind of keeps happening. I don't again don't have any problem with the scenes were great. The stuff in Harrenhal especially was super awesome. I do have questions kind of the juice was worth the squeeze and what was Alice Rivers' deal the whole time and that kind of stuff. But I really watching it, everything about it really worked for me. Even kind of Damon finally, bending the knee and yeah, maybe he's kind of right where we thought he was at the end of season one, but he does have an army now, and we got to meet Sir Strong around our boy Sir Simon Strong on along the way here. So I don't necessarily mind it overall. Good episode of House of the Dragon. Maybe not the best, but it would have been a fine, preamble to the penultimate episode kind of deal. If this was 8 of 10, I don't know if it's a banger, but I'm perfectly happy assuming, I get what I think I'm going to get in 9 and 10. And that was probably my main problem as a book reader. I had very specific expectations and what we would see, and up to like even the final shot of the season. Looking back on it, if you were going to cut it short, end it last episode on the shot of Aemon turning back and the dragons coming out behind Rhaenyra. Just end it there if you're going to do that. You're 7 and 9
Yeah.
then. I'd almost rather have had it end on that. That would have been, it wasn't a huge battle, but I wouldn't have gone out on that shot at that moment. I could have lived with it totally. I just think that would have been a better choice than giving us this preamble. I would have rather had this as the first episode of season 3 then. So
This wasn't a regular episode. It was a season finale. And on top of that, it was a season finale that there won't be a follow-up episode to for 2 years. That we waited 2 years to watch this one. Taking all that into account here, how did the episode work for you as a season finale? And again, we love this universe, we love the show, but we got to be real when it's time to be real.
excluding the season 8 Game of Thrones finale is my least favorite finale of any of the seasons because it wasn't a finale. I don't believe it was intended to function as a finale. This was originally supposed to be another 10 episode season. We had the big Warner Brothers Discovery merger. Apparently, they were just told, like, hey, it's 8 episodes now. My guess is the scripts were locked. You had the writer strike affecting the ability to edit stuff. And they looked at it, they're like, you know what? We're going to go out on a nice tease, right? We're not going to we're not going to get to the fireworks factory, but we're going to show how close we are. Because it's almost cruel to have everyone getting laced up for battle and everything and end the season that way. That's just a little like you can set stuff up, but that's literally kind of fucking with your audience almost a little bit.
We needed to see somebody die here. We needed to see some blood, didn't we? Something?
Yeah, Damon bending the knee wasn't enough because I think we all kind of thought that wasn't going to happen because then the alternate would be what? Then there's a war on three fronts. You know what I mean? I don't know if you could split the factions any further. One thing I will hit the show for is learn a lesson for Game of Thrones. Not every character has to be in every episode. It seemed like this one they were really straining to get some of these characters in there, and I think it would have benefited them to not even try. But for the most part, I just have to imagine that this was never intended to be a finale, and they just kind of let it ride that way because it would be a penultimate episode. I could live with it as long as the finale was strong. But I'm assuming they were going old school Game of Thrones style, which means 8 was the huge setup episode, 9 was the ultra banger, and 10 was the come down, the denouement setting up the next season. I have to assume that's the story structure they were going for. And in that context, this would have been, a very good episode. Maybe again, not a
Yeah.
banger, but it would very, very good setup episode. Maybe you could have gotten there quicker after the previous episode. And honestly, if this is 8 of 10, maybe they do get it down to 55 minutes or something and bring it in a little bit tighter. So, how about yourself, man? How do you feel that this one functioned as a season finale?
Not great. Look, if we knew like next season was going to be the final season, and it's like, all right, everything's set up, and it's just going to be nonstop, rip your face off fun, and we're going to get everything we want, maybe I could deal with it. But like we're thinking at least another season or two. We didn't get really anything accomplished here in terms of action. We had one episode of action. I really thought we were going to at least see the war begin, at least a battle, at least something major happen with one of the boiling points that are reaching top kettle that needs to go somewhere. And we didn't really get any of it. And honestly, that montage just absolutely pissed me off. It was kind of a slap in the face because it's like, now here we are seeing all the things we spent all season building, and we're just going to give you one more tease because we don't think we have to give you a taste of anything. You'll just keep coming back for it, and we will. But it sucks, dude. Like you said, it's almost cruel. All in all, I mock this up as a failed season finale. I am going to have the same mindset as you, Mills, that this wasn't intended to be. But gosh darn it, we're talking about HBO product, top of the universe of universes when it comes to their products. This is their best product, some would argue. I think so, this universe. You got to deliver here, man. We waited 2 years for it. We're going to have to wait another 2 years to see the next thing. This was such a letdown. It's like people are going to be like, I don't care about it because it was already starting to trend that way this entire season with not enough shit, all setup. This is just a giant setup season. Kind of sucks.
Yeah, and you can make whatever arguments. Perhaps it's not there, in the budget. I would imagine that comes with them going from 10 to 8. They weren't like, oh, here's the same amount of money to do 8 episodes. So I think that definitely had to take a leg out of it. I will say that if this was a mid-season finale, and it's all right, House of the Dragons coming back January, I'm okay with it probably, right?
Oh,
if
yeah.
it's like 6 months,
Yeah.
this is fine, right? It's not egregious or anything. It's not exactly what you were hoping for, but I don't mind. But when the fact that it's probably going to be at absolute best 18 months, more realistically, possibly over 2 years, that's rough, man. That's asking a lot of people.
Yeah. Without anything.
Think about the people who are going to get into this show. Like, why bother now? Get into it, wait 18 months, and then go ahead and start watching it. Why would people subscribe to watch it now? I think it's just you're cutting off your nose to spite your face a little bit here. I just think it's poor long-term planning on the part of Warner Brothers, whoever's running this one. Not a good call because everyone on the show is very good. And
Yes.
it's just going to take a decade to get through 5 seasons of this. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not used to that. I don't need 22 episodes, with only 3 months off every year like the old network schedule. But if you're going to be 2 years apart, you got to really kind of open and close strong. And think about the Starks, man. What do we get, like 4 minutes? And it's not like I needed them, a whole episode of the Starks or something. But man, like they literally just teased you at the very beginning and the very end, and that was it. Like it's really it feels like pandering at a certain point.
Yeah. And I kind of called it thinking, man, all we're going to get is just maybe a quick march, which sucks. I don't want that to be the case. But it was. And, and really, don't you just you had to kind of read the banner, right? You had to see the banner, yeah, on all this stuff. And it just, I don't know, man. Like you said, I just wish that this would have been different. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, when everyone's making the same jokes about, oh, well, I can't wait for the episode next week to see what happens. Yeah, you should know you screwed up, show. There's going to be memes about this. Just learn from your mistakes here. I thought the show did a good job for the most part learning from the mistakes of Game of Thrones originally, especially that final season. So I hope they do take some of this to heart, especially if it's going to be the shortened order going forward. If it's going to be 8 episodes, that's fine, but it better not be a lot of filler then. That's the longer the episode count, the more filler we're willing to entertain. Sometimes filler's awesome, but sometimes it's easily recognizable as filler.
And I guess I'm just, you're only doing 8 episodes. Do we really have to wait 2 years? Like that, I have a hard time with that, man. We didn't have to wait 2 years for Game of Thrones that did 10.
Well, a lot more dragons here, and it's the old adage, like you can have something cheap, you can have something good, you can have it quick, but you only can have it 2 of those 3 things. You can't do it like that's how it works. Like, if they wanted to not cost $1 billion for all these dragons, it's probably going to take a while, unfortunately. It's the name of the game.
Yeah, man, that's disappointing.
Not ideal. Not ideal.
It's not, but let's move on to the stuff that really doesn't, connect with any of the other plots. It's just kind of these one-offs that we saw, starting with Tywin Lannister's Caribbean cruise. At least that's what I thought it was. Do you think he got the all-inclusive, Mills, with the alcohol?
I would hope so. I mean, he does mention wanting a flag and a wine, so shout out
He
him plugging the
does.
show. And as long as he's got some Caribbean Queen bumping in the background, I think I am probably good with it. I mean, this was fun. I've been saying, like, give us some fun stuff, give us something bright and colorful. And this really does do all that. It's kind of cool. They show the Tyroshi here. Like, this is how Dahario Naris was in the books with the blue mustache and all this crazy dyed stuff and knives and all this crazy whatnot. I thought it was pretty good. The negotiations I thought were a lot of fun. That kind of first scene there, the idea that a Lannister is like crying poverty was fun when they literally live in a gold mountain. That was just kind of a fun call out. And I thought the Triarchy like represented themselves pretty well. And they're like, do you think we lack buyers for our tapestries and perfumes? Dude, we know they don't. They have an Etsy store. They won't shut up about it. That's all we hear about is the Triarchy's Etsy store. I swear to God, it's the
That's
only
it.
thing on their Instagram these days. And they'll sell whatever they please, blockade or no, except Harlan County, because you don't want to mess with Boy Crowder.
Absolutely not. He owns that county. I thought this was fun. It was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. I mean, this represented a big chunk of the episode here. I would have loved this last episode or even the episode prior. But it was cool. I thought the mud scene was funny. It was surprising to, hear that she wants him to bang her wives or whatever. That was funny. Um, Good stuff here. It's always nice to go to outside of West. I like all that. It's fun to go to those places, but this was just, I think it was too long of a thing here.
Well, that's what she said. And I think Essos is probably where it's at if you want to go for a bachelor party or something like that. What do you think about Thailand just giving away the step zones? I mean, there was a big part of first one was fighting for these stupid little islands, and now he's just going to give them away. Is that legit, or is it just one of those things that, yeah, you go ahead and take them, and then after the war, we'll just come take them back or whatever kind of deal?
I think it just spoke to how desperate his situation is, and Aemon's situation here. And you got to believe that while Aemon may be mad about this, if it works and they win, they have dragons. They can go and double cross them if they want. So yeah, it was a risk, but I think he had no choice. He didn't go all the way there to not get a deal done.
Yeah, he pretty much had to, right? Like failure was not an option. And of course, there's always one more condition. It's like when you're playing Monopoly with someone and you think you have a deal done, they're like, and I'm going to need you to give me your go money next time. Poor Thailand. He was just, trying to get a bath and a flag and a wine. I feel that. I would probably go with shower beer over bath and flag and a wine, but to each their own. In one nice bit here that we got at the end of that mud wrestling scene you were talking about, we get a cannibal joke. That's what they do in Essos. If it was over in King's Landing, it would have been an incest joke. So kind of nice to switch it up with the cannibal jokes over the incest jokes, I feel.
Hey, man, it is. It's a good change for sure.
And shout out the pirate captain's name here. I believe they refer to them as a him, but then they were saying she on the inside. So I don't know what it is. Sharako Lohar, that's a name. And she gets he, whatever you want to go, get some good digs in. I love the idea. She couldn't just remember Tylen's name. It was old. She kept calling him the wrong thing all the time. I thought that was really great. And she even
It was
gets into
fun.
like, oh yeah, you're more accomplished than you would think to look at you. And then the whole idea that she wants him to put some babies into her wives. I really wish they would have shown the wives. How many wives you think in and are they good looking?
I'm guessing at least three, and yes,
Oh, I
I
was gonna
think
go
they
a
are.
dozen. I was gonna go a dozen. That's why I think he's asking, right? He's like, man, how many Gatorades do I need to buy here?
Dude, you better get some protein shakes. Better really.
It's going to be a rough one there. How about all the stuff with Reyna trying to claim the wild dragon in the Vale? Because here's my notes on this as they ascend. Jesus, Reyna literally has no plan, no water, no food, no nothing. There has to be a better way to do the Reyna plot. They really botched the Reyna thing. I feel bad, but they kept coming back for these really quick cuts. Just if you're gonna, don't even bother with that, right? Just show the one shot at the end of her by the dragon. That's all you need, or give it time to actually develop, right? It made it just seem like how nonsensical it is that she doesn't even have water. It made it worse by pointing that out.
It was fun to see parts of the Vale and parts of the Erie. And yeah, I liked watching her walk up and she even started to try to freaking start a fire to drink that water. I hope she doesn't pick up any parasites in that thing. I mean, I've watched enough survival shows. You got to boil that baby before you drink it. But in all seriousness, To me, I don't like this because I would have been fine. We knew she's looking for it. I would have been fine just having her finally reach it, and that's when we see her. And she could still be disheveled and still be, hey, I've been out here forever. That's fine. But like it just didn't work. It was kind of a swing and a miss. And then ultimately, I think we wasted that time. I would have rather found out more about that dragon. We know she's going to get it because it's either that or she's dead. They boxed it in. Stop teasing it. Just make it happen. Let her ride it. Like just make it happen. We there's no surprise here. It's not like, oh, it's not going to work. Like we know it's going to, or she's going to die. Especially now that you pointed out she has no water, no food. It's freezing. She can't sleep. Like, I mean, come on, man. I don't like that.
That is a good come on, man there. I like that doing a little ESPN crossover with it. And this is a bad spot for a botch job because this is not from the books. This is them freestyling and kind of combining a couple of plots and folding characters in on each other, which could ultimately work here. But this is the kind of thing, the people have read the book. If you're going to bot something like this, like if you're going to make a change, that's fine, especially because Fire and Blood is pretty ambiguous. But this is something that's definitely out of whole cloth. It's not in the books at all. They're making it up, so it better be good. In the way this is played out, just it seems like, in the late, in season 8 of Game of Thrones, where like Daenerys just forgets like there's a whole navy and loses a dragon. Like, and on the inside of the episode, like, oh, she just forgot that there was a whole other navy there or whatever. Like, this is just kind of egregiously loose writing. So I didn't really enjoy that. Again, I think there were better ways to do it. Even just bag it for next season then. If you can't really do something with it, don't try to cram it in here. Again, you don't need to see every character. I get it at season finale, but sometimes less is more.
But Mills, if they knew they weren't going to do any battle related stuff, we're just going to have everybody literally going towards battle, would it have killed them to get that final shot of her claiming that dragon, heading back to Dragonstone with the other like would that have been a better ending? Why not do that? We already know what's going to happen. I don't need to see that next season because we already have to see all the other shit that they didn't let us see this season.
I can only say that depending on what they do, I don't want to say too much here because I can't really anticipate how they're going to fold stuff onto each other, but there might be something coming. Like if she claims a dragon, something might come up quick, maybe. That's all I'm saying here. She might not have time to go around and see what's going on. It might be like you said, kind of a sink or swim situation. And we'll talk about the Double D's, Dragonstone, and Driftmark in a little bit, but think this is a good spot just to mention the conversation Corlys has with Alan, because that doesn't really connect with anything else. And I just really like this because it was Alan finally just telling Corlys what's what. And I think everyone had kind of been waiting for that. And Corlys really, he's trying, but I don't know if he's not trying hard or he just doesn't know, because he's not giving him anything here, right? And he doesn't seem to really be able to read the room. And I don't know. I really don't hold anything against Alan here. I really feel like he's in the right here, and Corlys is just.
It was a critique. He was critiquing him. I know he's trying to help him, but he's basically telling him, you need to do this, this, and this because you're not doing it well enough to lead, and the men need it. But from Alan's perspective, he didn't want to be a leader, and it feels like kind of like, well, Corlys is just doing this to kind of compartmentalize his own grief about it, right? I thought this was really powerful. And I love the fact that Corlys kept kind of, you're dismissed, but he also let it happen. And that's the hand you're talking to. So, I mean, it's kind of a big deal. I think Corlys is starting to realize that, like, man, what's left of his family, his world, it's not as good as it should be.
Yeah, and you have to feel for Alan, right? Because he is completely correct in that, look, you're only coming to me now that you've lost all of your other kids, basically. Like I'm your last option, and no one wants to be anybody's last option. Yeah, that's not right. And especially when he talks about being hungry, watching you shopping for desserts, and meanwhile I'm over here just scrimping to try and live through the winter. Yeah. I think overall Alan's actually done a really good job of actually being pretty respectful and kind of keeping it all in. He could have blown up Corlys' spot multiple times here, and he's chosen not to. So. I'd say like he seems like a pretty good dude overall. And I don't know if we can agree on whether or not Kristen Cole is a good dude, but I like this, right? We saw that scene in the trailer with Gwaine holding the sword to the throat. And we couldn't quite figure it out. Kristen Cole is like full DGAF here, right? He just doesn't, it's like dragons are coming. We're all toast, man. It's like he's reflecting on his life before he's dead, right? Like he's already acting like it's all over. Any thoughts on how this played out? I don't want to say that I like Kristen Cole now, but he managed to work on me a little bit without changing his hair. So good for him.
Yeah, it was cool. I will say I wish I knew how Dwayne kind of found out about this and knew that he was banging his sister or whatever.
Oh, I
Like,
thought it was because he saw the titty napkin or whatever. Because he had Allison's favor that he was wiping it, or it might be an open secret too. This might be one of those things where everybody kind of knows, kind of like like Homelander's milk fetish and the boys. It might just be an open secret, maybe.
maybe they didn't really dwell on that. I was as somebody who didn't read the book or anything. I was just like, did I miss something? How did he know? It just seemed kind of like abrupt. Like now I'm just gonna hold the sword. I mean, so maybe it was that. And I think Kristen Cole, for better or worse, was changed watching the Rook's Nest situation in episode 4, where it was Vagar and Reyna and her dragon, and all that, and that whole battle scene there. I think that was his first time realizing it doesn't matter what we do. Dragons are involved. They're going to torch us. We're dead.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take. I mean, what can you do really, right? And what's amazing is he is so kind of just doubter, kind of. He actually kills Gwen's like anger, right? Gwen doesn't
Yeah.
even know what to do with
He
this.
just sits
He's
down
just
next to
looking
him.
at
He's
him
like,
just like, dude, I don't even know right now. It's one of those guys like, oh, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. All right, go for it. I don't really care. Maybe it'll help. I don't, at this point, could it even really make things worse? I don't even know to go for it. It's like, I don't really want to beat you up now, dude. Come on.
right.
Good stuff. Makes me like Gwen a little bit too. I don't know. Like they've quietly built Gwen up a little bit. Again, this is a character who is basically just kind of named in the books. He's more in King's Landing with the City Watch, so kind of interesting to see them give him a bigger role. Kind of curious as to where he goes going forward. And Kristen Cole too. They're definitely deviating a little bit from his book plot, so I'm curious as to where they're going with all this.
Let's move on to Harrenhal, where Damon has more visions before ultimately bending the knee to Rhaenyra. Mills, I'm not sure if the juice was worth the squeeze, but Damon bending the knee was a great, great moment, wasn't it?
Oh, everything about this was right from when Rhaenyra lands. That the outside shots are so great. Where you see all the men camped, the dragon. She comes up the very steep stairs, and Simon
Meeting,
Strong meets her. And
yeah,
again, more Simon Strong's always good. And he's kind of like, yeah, you know what? I was right to text you or whatever to send you a raven, but you're never gonna believe what happened. It's a Christmas miracle, kind of. And brings her in there, and everything's great. All the men kind of stop and turn and look at her. And then Cyrax just comes and lands right on kind of the top of the ruins and looks down at all the guys like, yo, I could totally roast all these dudes right now if you wanted me to.
yeah.
And then the way Damon walks up and everything, and kind of they talk in High Valyrian. It just extremely well done. I don't know if all the Harrenhal stuff was worth it. Again, none of this is from the book, so I don't quite know what they're going for here. But I guess he did end up with an army, and I guess the only question is, do you 100% believe Damon when he bends the knee? Is this it? Like, are they trying to mislead us at all, or is he legitimately, Rhaenyra's legal man now?
Did they need this to be all season for him? No. But I think it was cool watching him go through kind of the stages of Damon where he shows up, he starts hearing shit, going crazy, decides he's going to be the king, and then all the while just to come to the conclusion where he's now finally ready to kind of see this vision. Once he did, I think it shook him to his core and he realized his place. And so it was almost like a therapeutic healing thing for Damon. Like he went to like a therapy retreat for all season, and ended up getting finally drank the ayahuasca tea and saw what needed to happen for him or whatever. But I do think he is now loyal to her, and I think he believes she is the hope for the realm, right? I mean, he saw unless obviously we'll talk about the his vision and everything, but I thought that was really awesome.
Do you think it is the vision that sold it? I kind of got the way even before that he might have been leaning towards Rhaenyra. We kind of got that, I think, with the end of his Viserys flashbacks, where he kind of did, what was maybe the right thing instead of what he actually did, and so he's trying to make amends. None of it really surprised me. I thought it was interesting, but I really thought that it played out in an interesting way in that it wasn't totally unambiguous, but I do definitely believe Damon, and maybe it's just because now he knows what he has to do, right? How about the
Yeah,
visions themselves? I mean, as far as I took in my notes, we had a shot of Brennan Rivers. That's the three-eyed raven. That might be a little bit of a tease because he will probably appear in Duncan Egg, the Hedge Knight, at some point there. You see the White Walkers. You see a dead dragon. You see the comet from season 2 of Game of Thrones. You see 3 dragon eggs at a fire. Then Daenerys emerging with her dragons. Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne. And then the big kind of curveball here that some people had a little bit of problem with was Helena showing up and kind of
yeah.
telling Damon he knows his part. You know what you must do. I don't think that the other stuff was necessarily surprising. It lets him relate to, Rhaenyra, because now she's like, oh, how did you know about this stuff? So it kind of connects them in that supernatural kind of way with a greater purpose. Did you like the Helena part though? And do you think, she's there just because she's kind of the mystical person on Team Green, I guess?
I think that this was quietly a really good episode for Helena, and I wish that they would have used her more throughout the season because I do think that she is kind of the Team Green side, if you will. They're in between or medium or whatever you want to call it to that the mythical kind of stuff, that the magic of it all, right? And so I do think that it was important. It was weird to me that she showed up in his thing. And so now what it did for me, Mills, was it gave me hope that maybe she serves a bigger purpose heading into season 3 and she's going to have that bigger role. I also thought her conversation with Aemon where she tells him he's going to die and all that was pretty powerful too. So that having that earlier in this episode and then getting her again in this vision, I thought that helped it a little bit, but it was odd, for her to be in there. But I thought it was a great episode for her. It did not work, so I'd like to see more of it with
So
her.
surprising, but not in a bad way. Surprising.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
as opposed to they could have gone another way with someone else from a flashback who we might have expected to see maybe. And I think that was an interesting choice. I don't really have a problem with it. It kind of on the, I guess, I don't know if she's the official Team Black kind of, prophecy person, but how about Alice Rivers? Was she just a conduit, like doing her thing? Like she plays it out that way, kind of, right? Like we're all just servants of the gods. There's a greater purpose. Is she just doing her thing? Or is she trying to make something happen, kind of? Is she directing these visions in any way? Or is she just kind of, playing her part in her mind? What do you think her role is here, at least in her head?
I think that this is remains one of the big mysteries of this season is her and whether or not we'll see her anymore. Will she go with Damon, similar to the Red Woman with Stannis Baratheon? Will we continue to see her kind of utilize this skill set? And if so, then we'll know the answer to that question. I think right now, I think it's she that's her role in the world, right? I do think that she knows what he saw, and so she wants to make that happen for him to be aware to try to avoid it, right? To try okay, now they know, maybe we'll let the chips fall where they can have a chance at not having the world end. But I think she's just kind of playing her role in the universe right now.
Okay, she's a character I don't want to say too much about because of the books. One thing that's definitely not in the books, this is something you have to be really paying attention to. When they go out by the heart treat there, it's actually even better if you're watching it in closed captioning. You see that there's an antlered human shape that kind of clip clops out of the godswood there. And my guess is that's one of the green men from the Isle of Faces. This is something that they never really, they can maybe alluded to very early in Game of Thrones, but never got to. But it's kind of a source of a lot of speculation for book readers, especially in Game of Thrones, and maybe they had a part in creating the White Walkers and stuff like that. So there's kind of a lot to it. So that was a really interesting thing. And if you weren't paying a lot of attention, he just kind of scurries off in the background right when you're coming out to that the heart tree there. So
Saw it, but I didn't know what it was, and then I just kind of let it go because so much happens. I was like, oh, that was weird. What was
yeah,
out
in
there?
closed captioning, it's referred to as an antlered human shape for what that's worth. So no spoilers unless you count closed captioning as the spoilers. How about Alfred Broom here? When he goes out with Damon, you actually hear the trees whisper traitor. That's another one that's in the closed captioning. Is that Bran Stark? Is that the three-eyed raven? Who's saying traitor there?
Yeah, I don't know. I really like that though, and it was almost as if Damon heard it, didn't it? It
He
was
did. He
pretty
says
cool.
the place will have you barking at the moon, which is, I'm assuming, a DMX reference.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this was cool. I'm gonna go with the three-eyed raven. Obviously, watching it, knowing what's going on.
Nice. And that just kind of sets up the bit where, you know, Alfred Broom kind of makes his play for Damon insert. Simon Strong overhears it and he sends the Raven out. So that's how that all comes back together.
Well, and one cool thing with Broom too is I think he's going to meet his unfortunate fate. That look he gave as Damon bent the knee, and he realized really quickly, oh shoot, because now I don't know that Damon's going to trust him, right? And we'll see how loyal that'll be Damon's first act of loyalty maybe to Rhaenyra. So I don't know that that Alfred Broom is in a good place here. He kind of shot
No.
his shot and he missed.
Yeah, he really did. And you only get one shot, you know, and shout out to B Rabbit. Great line when Damon tells him when he shows up, "You've arrived just in time to see my new army, Broom. What do you think of it? It's very large." Apparently, they're not doing phrasing down in Harrenhal, but that was a good one. And I was also very happy. Shout out Caraxes, because he's basically just been chilling for months outside waiting to do something at Harrenhal. He's like, look at my dragon friends are visiting. He's so excited. Like, do dragons play like dogs when they all show up together? They just go fly around and hang out and like chase sticks or something like that. I don't really know, but I kind of like to think that like they are dogs that they just have some fun together instead of eating each other or whatever.
Yeah,
In Simon Strong, dude, you're the real MVP, Simon Strong. His face acting, if you watch him behind Damon and Rhaenyra, he gets so happy. He's clapping back there. It's like the opposite of Alfred Broom there, who's just like his face is dropping. Meanwhile, Simon Strong is literally just beaming with excitement.
yeah, and I think all of us we're all like same, bro, same because it was awesome. And just really quickly, I hope we get to see more of Damon leading men into war because it was awesome. I mean, I was like up and ready to run through a wall for him. I want him in the locker room at halftime when the Bills are in the Super Bowl, just giving you that extra oomph. Man, that was pretty cool. I'm very excited about that.
Great hype speech there. You even see Sir Simon like giving the full clap, like Damon, he's like a proud father. I absolutely love all that. And Damon really did get kind of the one, like the tearjerker romantic line to Rhaenyra.
You are the true queen, Rhaenyra. First of her name, protector of the realm. I am meant to serve you, and all of these with me, until death, or the end of our story.
Or until HBO cancels us or can't, cuts our budget so far that they can't afford Matt Smith anymore.
Dude, I love that. She was like, after she like forgave him, she was like, leave me again at your own peril. That is, man, and he was, and he,
It's
great
a
little
super
exchange there.
Targaryen thing to say, I feel.
Yes. Great exchange there in the old Valeria. That's always awesome. Very smooth. I wonder how long they had to like learn old Valeria, like how long it took them to
They
like,
talked about this in the first season, like on the inside of the episode. I don't remember the specifics of it. I don't know if they have fleshed out the full language, but they do have like a high Valerian person that comes in and helps them. So it is at least consistent. I don't know that they have a full language built up, but what they say at least it tracks.
that's awesome, man. Well, let's head over to King's Landing and talk about Team Green. And no, it's not Tom Green, and his bum is not on your lips. After fleeing Rhaenyra and her new dragons in the last episode, Aemon takes out his rage on the people of Sharp Point. Mills, I'm starting to think that this Aemon fella might not be a nice guy and maybe is living up to my nickname of the one-eyed asshole.
It's fine. I mean, him burning Small Point, we saw that in the teaser for last week. We weren't quite sure what it was. I mean, that is like petulant, right? I mean, I guess it's a better clapback than leaving a floater in Homelander's toilet, but not much. I will say that the shot of Vagar's mouth that they cut to right at the beginning when they kind of pan back, then is all you can kind of see the fire building and the holes
Yeah,
in the wings, and that's where all this money goes. That's why it's so complicated to have two or three of those things on the screen at the same time. I know just how much it is, but cool. But Eamon is definitely not in a good place, right? And then you even kind of see that because everyone else is kind of like, dude, you need to not be such a dick, right? You can't you can't investigate all the fishing chips. You can't kill all the small folk. You just can't do these things. And I don't know that he's going to listen to anybody, man. Dude's kind of on one.
yeah, he definitely this is showing his weakness here, and ultimately, we all hope his downfall. The point here, it was that some sort of relevance. Why pick that little village? It's not something that if you didn't read the book, that you really ever heard of with Sharp Point. Like what's the deal with it?
I am pretty sure that was just the closest place he could get to in Torch after he turned away from Dragonstone in the last episode. Like he was just like so mad coming out of there. Well, I'll show them by going and roasting a bunch of harmless people. So I think it was just a geographical thing.
So no relevance to this town. It didn't solve, like, it wasn't like a Rook's Rust where there was a strategic thing or anything. Okay.
Nope, full on temper tantrum. Like you want your bubblicious in the line at the store or whatever. You got to have your Mentos, or you're going to throw a full fit. And that's kind of why Allison comes at him that way, right? Because that's an interesting scene. Again, they did spoil a little bit too much of this in the teaser too. On top of it being a finale that didn't deliver everything, the couple of things that might have been maybe a little bit surprising are almost all ruined in the teaser. And you watch the teaser knowing that going in, but you kind of mentioned the peril, and Eamon even brings that up too. Everyone loves peril in this episode. We're in more peril today than yesterday, and that's where we get the trailer line from Alicent there, like,
peril or basest fury at your own humiliation. You wish to rule the Seven Kingdoms, but you rain ruin and death upon its small folk when you've been insulted. Because it makes you feel strong.
Dude, this is just because you're being a dick. You were humiliated, and all you're going to do is rain ruin on death on the small folk. And when you're insulted, you don't know what to do. You make it worse. And now you're Helena. She's the good one. She's the only good one. And now you're trying to get her to go roast some regular people out there, which is literally the last thing she wants to do after seeing her infant son murdered. So again, Aemon probably taking it a step too far, but I think this definitely ties into why Alicent is maybe willing to cut bait on her sons.
The show's done, let's give them a little bit of credit here. They've done a really good job this season kind of letting Alicent come to grips with the fact that maybe she made a mistake, and that these two the options here with both Aegon and now Aemond, it's almost like you went from bad to worse. And also that there's not a whole lot of hope for her in terms of, being able to kind of do it the right way. And I think that's they did a really good job kind of leading into that. And then ultimately that builds up to the point where we see that come to fruition with that final scene there with her and Rhaenyra in Dragonstone.
Yeah, and honestly, usually if somebody says basest fury, I'm just really hoping for an awesome base solo, not someone really roasting a town of innocent small folk. But they do love their vocabulary on this show. And I just love that Maester Orwell is now also like a master smuggler. Elson's like, yo, I need you to do this one thing for me. Completely smuggle me to Dragonstone while there are now inspections on every boat because they just smuggled a bunch of people to Dragonstone in the previous episode. So he's got it going on, dude. He's really a very good Maester. That's why he's a Grand Maester, I guess.
He is the Grand Maester Baster. I've grown to enjoy his character. I think we needed kind of some sort of loyalty to Alicent now that Otto's out of the picture and everything. So that worked pretty well, actually, not just here, but throughout the season here, the back half of the season.
The Maesters were always great in Game of Thrones because they were some of the few people willing to push back on the lords. That was kind of their deal. They were basically neutral, right? So they could say what they meant more or less. So I do like the Maesters roles overall. How about Aemon trying to get Helena to go back on Dreamfire? And this is a little bit of a change from the books. Won't spoil anything for anybody, but in the books, she really loves dragon riding. It's like her whole thing, and like people actually love watching her ride her dragon. It's a whole thing. But then she stops riding, obviously, after the death of her son. So in the book here, it's that way. And then on the show, they're kind of like, oh, she's not really into dragons. So that's a little bit of a change. I don't think it'll make a difference. What do you think about the kind of the conversation between her and Aemon, especially when she tells Aemon straight up, like, I know you burned Aegon and then you let him fall. You did the whole thing, and she seems ready to go, right? What are you gonna do? Kill me? Won't change anything.
Dude, her interaction with Aemond here. Well, the first scene where he bursts in, that was more about Alicent's response to Aemond. But then that scene with Aemond and Helena one-on-one on the balcony there, dude, she had no fear. She does not care about her life. I believed her. Holy shit, I believed her. I love this, dude. And she basically called it out. And I think for the first time, it's got him thinking, because I think he envisions this going a totally different way, right? So definitely powerful scene. I'm excited about her heading into next season, her being Helena.
Honestly, more Helena, more Bela. They've both been really great. Every time I see them, I'm like,
Yes.
please give me more of these characters. They are absolutely spectacular. One thing
Yeah.
I can't say anything about are what Helena says, call them prophecy or not. Anything you want to say on those, I'm not going to comment on those. Her actual words are, Aegon will be a king again. He's yet to see victory. He sits on a wooden throne. And then in regards to Aemon, she says he will be dead, swallowed up in the god's eye, never to be seen again.
I love that they did this, but it's almost like if you haven't read the book, they just gave away the ending, right? Because and then you see Aegon escaping with Lair as part of the master plan. You could see how maybe he could go heal up, wait for this to cool over, come back, do a surprise attack on Rhaenyra, and next thing you know, he's in there and Rhaenyra's out. Maybe she's short-lived in her, if she wins or whatever. And definitely, I think you see, okay, so he's going to live by the sword, die by the sword in Aemon, and he's going to die on his dragon in battle, kind of thing. She kind of not spoiled it, but she kind of told you what's going to happen in this thing.
It depends if you believe prophecy or not. I believe prophecy was referred to as George as like a sword with no hilt. So it's not always the easiest thing to get a grasp on. Two things I will point out here. One is that Aemon might be taking this Rhaenyra has raised random people up as Dragon Rider shit harder than Jace, which I didn't think was possible. He also seems legitimately personally insulted by it. Into while it is true that Alicent isn't a Dragon Rider, based on her experiences with Kristen Cole, I would bet that she's at least a Knight Rider.
He'll be
Any
he'll be
excuse
here
to
all
use
night,
the Knight
guys.
Rider theme, dude. Any excuse to use the Knight Rider theme. How about and I guess we should mention the final thing with Aemond here. This is a big mess up, right? Him inspecting all the boats. They go
Yeah.
out of their way to point out, like, dude, they're already out of food. You're gonna mess with their fish, which is like the last thing they want to eat. Even hear Ulf like being like, "Yo, dude, I'm never gonna eat another fish again," because that's all they are eating. And they keep, still subtly referring to the small folk being in a bad place throughout the episode. So I just think that's something to at least pay attention to. It seems a little bit of a throwaway here, but you have to figure they put it in there for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think once if war does break out, you're going to see even more kind of civil unrest. They're already upset. They spent a whole season focusing on that, not just to give us Ulf and Hugh the Hammer, right? It was for more of a reason. It's still the best, I think you could argue probably the second best strategy Rhaenyra did all season, short of finding new Dragon Riders, right? But that also comes with a lot more risk than rallying the small folk to revolt. So I think it's probably going to be something. I mean, that's going to create a log jam with everything coming in and out. They already have the issue with the port being blocked. So yeah, just bad leadership, bad strategy.
Log jamming, the unexpected Big Lebowski crossover that I am here for. And I suppose we should talk about Larry's and Aegon here. I'll say that Larry's gives a decent pitch, but it's mostly backed up by the idea that, like, yeah, Aemon's going to kill you. And what I thought was really funny is when Larry's lays it out about Aemon killing all the people in Sharp Point, what Aegon focuses on is the fact that Rhaenyra raised up the other dragon riders. He basically just yada yadas. Aemon burning a whole town because he's just like, oh man, she's a fucking mad judge. She really did it. Like she raised these people up. And shout out the actor, obviously just killing it as Aegon. He does look a little bit better here. Do you buy all this? Does this work from you? This is not exactly how it happens in the books, but more or less Larry's does to spirit Aegon away eventually. So this is at least somewhat in line with what happens there. Do you like this? Does it work for you? Does it seem realistic?
Yeah, because I think it was clear that, now you've got the chance that Team Green doesn't win, which will result in your death, and you've got a brother that wants to kill you and is now agitated. So I think it makes sense, and I think it also, and it was interesting because Rhaenyra said, "I have to kill your son." We'll talk about that scene later, but she fully intends to take the head of Aegon. Well, now she can. And we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I think this makes sense. It tracks. I just thought added a little bit of humor too, as Laris is trying to spit some facts to him, and he's like, did they tell you that my dick's gone? I can't even pee without it running down my leg. He's focused on all the negative stuff, and Laris, for better or worse, playing an important role here.
And I guess we should point this out. I don't know if it completely counts as one of the departed, but Aegon says his dragon is dead, so at least he thinks Sunfire is dead. I'm not going to say anything either way, but as of now on the show, apparently Sunfire is dead.
Yeah, but it would just be one thing if he does come back and does a sneak attack on Rhaenyra and takes the throne or something, and he's on Sunfire, right? Like that would be a crazy thing to bring it back like 2 seasons later. It is time for my favorite part of the show, the double D's, by which, of course, I mean Driftmark and Dragonstone. Mills, what did you think about your guy Ulf making himself right at home?
Oh, I mean, I think he's our guy, man. He's a man of the people. I mean, it makes a little bit of sense from the way he was portrayed, right? He was kind of not really going anywhere, and all of a sudden he's raised up. He didn't have real food. Now he's just enjoying the food, the ale, the flagons of wine, just having a good time with it. I don't know if he really takes it too seriously, but you also saw that he was having a good time up on the dragon when he was flying. So I don't know. I kind of like golf, man. I thought it was really interesting too because he immediately made one of Jace's worst nightmares come true when he's like, "Oh yeah, dude, we're just alike." Like, let them say that, we're not Targaryens or whatever. Look at you with your dark hair. And I especially love the fact when Jace first tried to yell at him, he starts to yell and Ulf just goes in for the hug. Heavy Tommy boy energy, dude. That was just straight up brother's hug right there. That's all I can think about when that happens.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me, and I think it creates the rub of this whole thing, right? Where like can't put any trust into Ulf, right? At least Hugh the Hammer is trying to take it serious. Same thing with Adam of Hall here, right? They're trying to take it serious. They're trying to, be honorable and do the right thing for the queen and everything. Ulf's just like, whatever, dude. I'm here to have a good time. I get to, put my feet up at the table, eat those little chicken wing things, and drink as much wine as humanly possible, and be disrespectful to the queen and the prince. I just don't see that ending real well. He's fun, but I don't know that I see this ending well.
I do like the idea of having a comic relief character, and he just gives me the impression of a guy who's like he thinks he's dreaming and he's gonna wake up, right? So he's like, "Yo, I better do as much stuff as I can before I actually wake up from this dream." So that's kind of the way I'm taking it. He is so overwhelmed. It's not quite shock, but he's just dealing with it in a different way. Because instead of being overwhelmed, he's being underwhelmed almost. He's like, "Oh yeah, this is cool. I expected all this. This is fine. This is great." I'm really curious to see how these people react when they're actually on a dragon in a fight. Will it be different? Will the situations flip? Will he be unexpectedly cool under pressure? I think there's a lot of interesting stuff you could try to read into it here. And do you think Jace is going too far, or do you think this is really him watching his worst nightmare come to life?
I am the hedge knight, but I think it is a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. And hear me out on this. I think he is overreacting a little bit here, but ultimately, I think he is getting, part of him is getting proven wrong, and the other part of him with Ulf is getting proven correct. Ulf does not belong at a table of noblemen, period. And yet here he is riding a dragon. Now, Ulf wasn't born to the queen. So Jace needs to remember just who the F he is, get his ass back out there. But I think he's being a little bit of a drama queen, but also at the same time, he's not totally wrong.
No, he's not. And I really did enjoy the energy there. Just it's kind of giving Jace something to do, which they play off in the Bayla scene. And she is absolutely fantastic there. And again, my notes are just like more Bayla, please. She's great because she calls him out. She's like, dude, do you really think like you're the first noble dude whose dad isn't actually the noble dude who he's supposed to be, or what it says on the parchment or whatever? She basically just tells him, like, yo, man up, quit whining, go do your thing. And this is a little weird because in the books, the whole dragon seed thing is basically Jace's idea. So the show is just kind of creating this as I shouldn't say needless, but just as an additional point of drama. It does make sense. You get it, right? While he would question, like, yo, if I'm a bastard and they're all bastards, like, aren't we the same then? Why am I
Yeah.
special? But then that you could say that about anybody. You're all human. Like it doesn't really matter. Like the further you zoom out, the less it matters.
Yeah.
So he really, I think Bayla's right here, and more Bayla. Maybe she should be the next in line or whatever because she seems to have her shit together.
I
And
love
did you
Baylor,
get any
dude.
BE from them? I got just a tiny bit of BE, and you can only
I've
say
been
that.
getting a little
Although
BE.
technically, I don't think they because of Jace's parentage, I do not think they're technically blood relatives in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I got a little BE. This whole season I've been thinking, man, they would make a great couple. Could she be queen one day? Yes. The BE is there, it's real, but it's also like she gets him and she can talk to him. I'm shipping him pretty hard, buddy. Yeah, I'm there for it.
Yeah, they have a lot in common, really.
They
They can
do.
relate in a way that most people can't because they are both dragon riders from these kind of weird marriages. You know, there's enough in common there that I think it does make a little bit of sense. And do you think that they are right to be this worried about the new dragon riders? And it was a little bit interesting, right? Like Corlys kind of vouches with Rhaenyra for Adam, but he still doesn't drop the bomb like, oh yeah, and I'm also his father. Because you think that would bring him pretty far into the circle of trust, right?
I think he wants to watch him find his own way, and I think he's impressed with what he saw so far. He doesn't want to take what he is and elevate him into something else. Just given the fact that and also I think there might be a little bit of a shameness on Corliss's part too. So some of that's probably a little bit selfish.
Fair enough. And what do you think about renaming the sea snake to the Queen Who Never Was? I enjoy the sentiment, but for the name of a ship, that seems a little bit wordy.
It's a long name, Mills. I thought that too.
It's a
It
big
was
ship,
cool.
but
I get this. I get the symbolism here of, hey, he lived his life for him, and now he's lost the things that matter most, and he wants to kind of live for that legacy, that memory. Um, but, and I go back to the fact when this show started, if you didn't read the books, it's a new family that you realize isn't around. The Valerians aren't around 200 years later when Game of Thrones takes place, right? So something happens to the demise of this family. You're starting to see a little bit of it. Will Corlys be the last one? Who knows? But I thought it was wordy, but I appreciate the sentiment, and I love that he's living for her now.
yeah, I think that's probably about. Oh, and the only other thing I'll mention with Corlys is he starts naming his foes. Never says the Triarchy. He mentions other houses with navies, but he does not mention the Triarchy. So either he's playing it cool, or maybe he doesn't see that coming.
I think it's going to be a big surprise to them. And I appreciate it, Alan. If I live through this battle, like he's going out there knowing there's a chance he might not.
And what do you think about the struggles that pretty much everybody except maybe Ulf and Jace are having about having to possibly kill innocent small folk in the effort to win the war, basically? That it's time of war, shit's going to happen. Maybe it's kind of like dropping the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? Like they're not necessarily militarily important targets, but it's a deterrence by force kind of. After this, are they really going to want to keep going to war? Do you think they handled this well? It could get a little bit annoying if they keep coming back to it, but I think it does make sense. And again, if they are actually going to nuke a whole bunch of small folk, it probably helps to talk about in advance because otherwise people are going to be like, they killed all these people. Like, at least if they struggle with it, I guess I don't say it makes it justified, but at least you understand where they're coming from a little bit better, maybe.
Yeah, and I think it's nice to kind of see that out of Team Black because you really haven't seen it short of Allison on Team Green.
Right. Heyman don't care.
No, obviously, I mean, just he's fresh off of Crispy Critter and the island or
Yeah.
whatever. So
For a temper tantrum, just off general, just GP, just temper tantrum.
yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. And it just brings a little bit of humaneness, and again, it helps you root for Team Black or whatever a little bit. So
And that's kind of where they have to shove Mysaria in to make sure everyone gets in this episode. She basically kind of assures Rhaenyra that, like, oh yeah, you're just, it's all good. Do you buy it here? Does she believe that even, or is she just telling Rhaenyra what she wants to hear?
I think she does, but I also think she hasn't struck me as somebody who's telling her what she wants to hear all season. So I'm going to go with the opposite. I think she does believe it. And I think she's like, hey, don't falter now. You know, you're the right choice. You know, you're the one that's supposed to be leading this. But dude, heavy, like it's not easy shit, man. Like you don't want this position. You got to be the one responsible for making these huge decisions.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown, I believe is what you were about to say. That is a lot of truth to that. I guess, do you believe the idea that my Mysario thinks like, look, small folk are going to die, but in the long run, this will ultimately benefit the small folk? Because I think that's what they're pitching. Do you buy that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, this is what has to happen so that because otherwise they're going to starve to death. They're gonna kill each other. They're gonna starve. They're gonna be famined. It's gonna be bad. And I think that's kind of where they're going. And I agree.
Yeah, well, apparently winter is coming. It's not just a trademarked phrase. And when I will say, when Rhaenyra gets woken up in the middle of the night, like, yo, someone's here. It's like, all right, this isn't going to be Damon or something. It's going to be somebody unique. Literally, the only thing I wrote in my notes was, well, at least we know it won't be Allison because we've already done that scene. I was kind of expecting it to be Otto. When that happened, what were you trying to remember the first time you watched the episode? What were you thinking? Who did you think was showing up to talk to Rhaenyra? Middle of the night, unannounced.
At first, I thought it was, at first I was thought it was going to be the lady, Miss Area, right? I thought maybe we might get that little rekindling of that last kissing scene, maybe a little bit more. There wasn't a whole lot of, sexual encounters in this episode, so I figured this was a good spot to slip one in. But that's kind of where I was going at first.
Okay, okay, fair enough. And when it turned out to be Allison, obviously these actresses have great chemistry together. Scenes with them are awesome. Did it feel too much like a rehash of the scene we got in the Sept earlier in the season?
A little bit, but that was a really good scene. I just was kind of like, man, I guess it's pretty easy to sneak in and out. And, the scope of how big of a risk this was, where I thought they did a good job kind of like making it believe that that the risk was so huge, kind of with the first one, right? When Rhaenyra went there. With this one, they were just kind of like, yeah, it's fine. No one will know. Like, it's
Yeah,
straight
she
up
just asked Master
treason.
Orwell, like, yo, hook me up with some directions or whatever with the ride, and no problem. Despite the fact that there is now increased inspections on boats.
Right. We just saw that earlier. So it's like to me, it's like in Aemond will absolutely relish in killing his mother for sure.
He
So
wouldn't hesitate, at least. I don't know if he'd relish it, but he wouldn't hesitate. Like, for the realm, and he'd still probably just carry on about his day.
it wouldn't bother him. I guess
Right.
I get why they want this. These are two phenomenal actresses, and they're so good. And this whole thing has been billed, kind of like the two of them, green and black, and all this. It felt like it was just a little bit too much, but it was powerful. It was profound. It was a great scene. The interesting thing about it to me, Mills, was when Alicent was walking out, and then you got the flashback of Otto in the prison, and then Alicent walking out. For a minute, I thought maybe is Alicent playing Rhaenyra? Just for a split second, I got that, and that was probably my favorite part about it.
Now, I had that in my notes again. This is something that's not in the book, so I don't know necessarily where they are going with it, but I at least have some ideas, so I don't want to say too much. But I was going to ask you, did you think that this offer was completely truthful from Allison? Like, there wasn't a trap in any way, shape, or form?
Yes, but there's a little glimmer of me that thought maybe there is. Maybe this is a trap. It didn't happen until she was walking out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if there was some way, like, she wants to end the war bloodlessly, right? What if she just suckered Rhaenyra into coming in there, get off her dragon, and then they take her out? Same thing as Aegon, right? Like, boom, you take her out, the war is over. Did you think that she would actually agree to give up Aegon? And is this kind of the result of the season long idea of her coming to grips with, like, at least her two oldest sons are kind of lost causes, as fucked up as that is?
I think it is, and you got the whole thing early with Darren, and and her just slowly seeing just how bad it's. I said we went from bad to worse, and with from Aegon to Aemon, and I think she realized that, and you saw it, from Aegon removing her father as hand to being so stupid and rash and flying into war, then Aemond attacking the brother, and then being an absolute psycho, cold-hearted dick and taking her off the council and all that. I think it was a long build for her to get there. And so I bought it because of all the work the show did all season long to kind of get us there.
And I think it makes sense that she's of the mind of now with Daron. If he's doing good without her, then it's because it's without her, right? So it makes sense that Helena and her granddaughter, that's like the less good ones, right? She even says that to Eamon, basically. She's still the one, the best of us. It at least makes sense that she would want to get out with those two, right? And then let the chips just fall where they may. And I appreciate the fact that, Renee even kind of calls it out, like history will not look fondly upon you if you really do this. If you open the gates to us, you're going to be a traitor by both sides. And, it's probably not going to work out great for you. And she's just like, I don't care. I just really want all of this. She kind of sells me in that moment. And I think that was the point of her going out in the gods with the previous episode, right? She's just like, I want out. Like, I don't necessarily want to live in the middle of the woods, but I don't want to do the King's Landing thing either. So that's kind of what I took from it. Did you take anything different?
No, that's spot on, spot on. But like I said, on her way out, there was just one little piece of me that was like, oh, she gave a look where it was just like, maybe, just maybe, maybe there's something else. But no, that's exactly how I took it.
See, what worries me is these scenes, like the first one that took place in the Sept earlier in the season between Rhaenyra and Alicent, and then this one here in Dragonstone, did not happen in the books. And I'm worried they're doing this just to set up the conflict we're going to see in the final montage, right? Because let's say Rhaenyra goes to King's Landing, Aegon's not there. Is she really going to believe Alicent when she's like, yo, I swear I didn't tell him to leave in advance? Is she really going to buy that? So I'm worried that they did all of this just to set up more conflict so we can like keep doing this.
Right.
I love the scenes of them together, but I don't want to have to go to these kind of contrivances just to like get them together a couple of times a season.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think that about does it here, except for the final montage, Mills. I mean, did they give us enough to hold this over until season three? For me, I don't think they did.
Not really, because this is all the stuff that should have been in the trailer for season three. So making the end of your season two finale basically a glorified trailer for season three doesn't work unless you've already gotten to the fireworks factory and it's in the come down in the denouement. It's not here. We never got to the fireworks factory, so kind of showing us the tease for season three seems a little bit like a slap in the face, especially when it's like, oh yeah, remember the Starks? Here they are again. Like, oh, remember all these things that came up? They're going to come up again in season three. Make sure you continue to subscribe. It feels a little bit cheap here, especially Otto being in a cage. That came out of nowhere. We had no context for that. Like, how did, again, something that's totally not from the books? I have no idea, so I'm not ruining anything for anybody. No clue on how this happened or where it's going. And yeah, I guess, but uh, not optimal.
Felt like to me they knew they were light here and they wanted to just add as much shit as they possibly could into this montage to try to beef it up to get people excited. But these are the fans of this show are not dumb, easily entertained people. Like this, I think this was a bad look, man. I'm sad for the show because it's better than this.
Yeah, we're here for the speculation and the quiet conversations in rooms, but there does have to be finality, especially in a season. And this just feels like, teasing for the sake of the tease, basically. Just be like, oh, we know we didn't give you quite what you wanted. Here you go. Here's just just a little tiny piece of it. I will say, as always, shout out Reen Jawadi. The music is absolutely perfect here. Just incredible. It looks great. Nothing wrong with any of that, but it's just a little bit like, boy, and as a book reader, especially, it makes me worried about how long they might try to stretch this out for. So, we'll see. But as inspiring as this should be, this could have just been the season three trailer. I would have rather gone out on a shot like we got of Rhaenyra at the end of episode 7, standing there on Dragonstone with the dragons behind her. That's a go out of a season shot. This montage was not, unfortunate. The last couple of shots, very cool. If you're watching on YouTube, one of them's my background. I mean, cool shots, but not nearly to the degree of that final shot of season 7 or episode 7.
Yeah, and I guess let's just call it what it is. We've got 4 or 5 things here that have built up that are heading towards a collision course. What realistically, Mills, what could they have given us one or two of them? At least started one or two of them? Like, could they have done something different here?
I think probably a longer, like, show the Starks that the Graybeards got held up somewhere, and then a longer shot of Rhaena and the dragon. That's it. Those two things. Especially Daron, I don't think they've casted the actor yet. Maybe they have at this point, but you don't even see him on his dragon. You just kind of see Tessarion flying over the Hightower line. It's fine, but it's not really necessary. Yeah, I'd rather go for one big hanger, right? And maybe do a mid-credit stinger or something like that than with one of them. But the full montage, it felt just like total pandering, unfortunately.
When we discussed episodes of television, we enjoy coming up with alternative episode titles. The Queen Who Ever Was feels like one of the weaker titles of the season. So I got a feeling maybe we can do better. Mills, you got any good ones for us? And don't be afraid to throw a little shade here.
Honestly, I'm going to start out with a fun one, the finale that never was. I feel a little bit mean. I'm stealing this from somebody on the Reddit. Shout out whoever made the comment on Reddit, I forget, but that felt very apt. This one also felt good because it was a line from the show, and it feels like us talking to Max. I still want to call him HBO, but Max, you need us more than we need you. And then, of course, one that's a nice play on a prophecy from Game of Thrones, the prince who was pouting.
Yeah.
Jamie G, you have one for us?
That's great. The vision was clear. I thought it was pretty cool. And that's really just because my favorite part of all this was the Damon thing finally coming to conclusion. That shouldn't be the best part of this episode, but for me it was. And that's kind of where I keep going.
I will say a fun one would just have to be sausage on the spit. I can see that as a little bit of a t-shirt option, maybe, but decent episode title. And then one that's a little bit more serious, Over Before It Began, which kind of describes season 2 of Hot D.
It is time to kick off the award tour, and our first stop is our favorite moment from the Queen Who Ever Was. A lot of cool stuff. I'm gonna go with that firing up the troops scene when the kind of that whole thing with Rhaenyra and Daemon and the dragon overhead and all the army behind him and him ultimately bending the knee and then the speech to rally the troops there. I thought that was just great.
For every one of us who falls, 100 of them, there will be no mercy. We fight for our queen.
Oh, I too would like to claim a 10-minute version part of the episode is my favorite moment, but
good moment.
You know what? See, because my original one was one from that, and it was more concisely Damon bending the knee while Simon Strong looks on proudly. But you know what I'm gonna go with? Give me that Bela and Jace conversation.
Do you believe that you are the first noble heir who was not sired by his noble father? Such is the way of the world, Jace, and in resenting it, you only diminish yourself.
Easy enough to say. I've heard the whispers the whole of my life.
Then prove to them that you are worthy. Get up and take your place by your mother's side.
I thought that was a nice little conversation. Her telling him basically to sack up, and I want to see if he takes her advice to heart. Also, little B.
B. For our next stop on the award tour, we're handing out the hardware for our favorite quotes from the Queen Who Ever Was. Mills, do the rusted root thing here and send us on our way. Hey.
Well, I was thinking about going with the Bela line about, do you believe you are the first noble heir who has not been sired by his noble father? But that was my favorite moment. So let me go over to Essos and shout out Shakaro Lohar.
I wish to have children by you.
You want me to?
Indeed. I want you to fuck my wives.
How many words do you have?
Damn it, show, this is the one time you spent this much time in Essos. Show us the wives. You've shown us literally everything else there. Just show us the wives.
Yeah.
I'm picturing a full-on Chris Tucker Rush Hour 2 situation, to be honest with you.
Oh no, dude, I'm thinking Jerry Maguire, show me the wives. Yeah, dude, you gotta show the wives here. I gotta go with basically Alan just just ripping into Corliss here. And I want to say, kind of his final one.
But if it is all the same, I will decline any offers of help. If I survive this war, I'll continue as I began. Alone.
Kind of the finality where it's interesting because on one hand, you believe that maybe a relationship will be fostered and grown between Adam and Corliss, but with Alan and Corliss, it's done, right? And that's the one that could eventually be the heir because he is of Salt and Sea and nothing more. Our next stop is the Hot D hierarchy, our House of the Dragon power rankings. These are just for the finale here. We'll do our rankings for the season on our season wrap up episode. Mills, recap the rankings from last week and then start us off with your number 5.
All right. Last week, my top 5 were from bottom to top. Oscar Tully at 5, Mysaria at 4, Damon at 3, Aemond at 2, Rhaenyra at 1. Jamie G, your top 5 starting from the bottom. Number 5, you had Damon. Number 4, you had the new Dragon Riders. Sounds like a cool cartoon or decent band. Number 3, Mysaria. Number 2, Aemond. Number 1, Rhaenyra. At number 5, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to get a little bit more specific than new Dragon Riders. Give me Ulf the White, Ulf the Sod at number 5 because dude is fun. I would enjoy having a flagon of wine with that dude. How about yourself? Who do you have at 5?
I've knocked down Mysaria here to 5. She's still important. Didn't have much to do here. I got her at 5. She's moved down on the rankings for me. At number 4, Mills, I have got Jace. I think it's like Stella found his groove. He's going to come back in a big way here and fight for his claim. I think he's been reinvigorated by his conversation with Bela, and I think he's going to make it happen. I've got Jace at 4.
Nice, nice. At number 4, breaking into my top 5, I have Larry Strong. He's kind of coming up, right? He seems like he has the ear of Aegon and also a lot of cash stashed away and a plan. All of those things are very useful things. Not rightful, but I guess he is more rightful than Aemond. He's got dough and a plan. Very good there. So Larry Strong at 4. Number 3, sticking to it. Give me Daemon. Big ass army now back with Rhaenyra pretty solidly. Seems to have kind of gotten a grip on his whole supernatural thing. So kind of hard to argue with Damon here, I feel. Jamie G, who do you have at 3?
Number 3, I have the one-eyed asshole. Aemon. Feels so good to put him down this low. Look, man, he's showing he's not fit to sit on the Iron Throne. He's basically alienated all of his family. Aegon lives and escaped, which he cannot do anything about. He is outnumbered in dragons. His sister just told him how he's going to die and how she doesn't want to fight for him. He's in trouble here, man.
Okay.
At number 2, I have Daemon. Daemon, on the other hand, has an army. He's back with Rhaenyra. He is part of the team that has 6 dragon riders. He's looking real good, and despite all the crazy shit, all his internal demons that he battled through, everything that happened, he came out of this roughly better than he went in, and I gotta give it to him. He's at number 2 for me.
Okay. At number 2 for me, I am going with One Eye with Aemond, and it's not because of Aemond, it's because of Vhagar. Vhagar is holding him up here. It's like a shitty team whose quarterback is just dragging them to the playoffs every year. That's why I'm putting Aemond at 2. Obviously, that leaves Rhaenyra at number 1 for me. Jamie G, are you simpatico there? Do you have Rhaenyra at number 1 once again this week?
Thank you very much, Mr. Abaco. Yes, I am simpatico, 100%. Rhaenyra is number 1 for me heading in season 3.
Interesting. We're going out on Mr. Roboto this week. Thank you for that, Jamie G. And to recap the Hot D hierarchy, my top 5 starting at number 5 towards the top are Ulf the White, Larry Strong, Daemon, Aemond, Rhaenyra, Jamie G top to bottom. Number 5, Mysaria. 4, Jace. 3, Aemond. 2, Daemon. 1, Rhaenyra. A lot of rhyming there, George, and a lot of vowels, so thanks for that.
Now it is time to hand out the biggest trophy yet. This is for our episode MVPs. Mills, it's my turn to make like Rusted Root. So, I wouldn't want to be living in ecstasy
A
with
little
you. All right,
ecstasy. I
sorry.
like that. A little
I
changing it up
had to
from
go and
changing it
switch it
up.
up
All
from
right. I
something
like
else.
a little ecstasy.
Yeah, I gotta just, I'm gonna do it here, man. I'm gonna go Damon. Like Damon figured out his shit, solved his mental hurdle, saw the future, bent the knee, all is well in the Damon universe right now.
All right, fair enough. I was trying to go a different way. I was trying to shove Ulf in there, but I got him in the hot D hierarchy. So you know what? I'm gonna go with Tyler Lannister, dude. He was so much fun this episode. I've never probably gone with a non-Tyrion Lannister before, as far as well, that's probably I've gone with some Jamie here, but and not you, Jamie, the other Jamie, the good Jamie. Tyler Lannister, he
Good
was killing it over
Jamie.
in Essos, dude. He was killing it in Essos. I'm sorry, like. And he's just dropping seed over there, dude. He's and doing it good. Like full LL Cool J, full Lannister Cool J over there, Tyler Lannister.
You know what? I'll give you that, man. And for the final stop on the award tour, we've got our episode grades. We grade each episode of House of the Dragon on a scale of 0 to 100 flagons of ale. Mills, how many flagons are you down in with Ulf for the season 2 finale? And will he outdrink you?
Maybe, I don't know, because I don't do flagons of wine. It would depend if it was actually flagons of ale or not. In Cards on the Table, if this were episode 8 out of 10 in season 2, this would probably be a mid to high 80s score. But as a season 2 finale, I'm down. I'm not all the way down. We're still passing here, but I'm going 74 flagons of ale because it just did not live up to snuff as a season finale. And we have to incorporate that into the grade, I feel. Jamie G, how about yourself?
Yeah, look, this is a tough one because again, all those reasons, it is the season finale. It did not deliver to our expectations or what it could have been. I'm going to be low, but not as low. I'm giving it 79, which was a grade to be proud of back in the day. You passed.
Yeah, D for diploma, baby. That's even above a D. That's a
It's
solid
basically
C,
an
dude.
it's basically an 80, buddy. I mean, it's basically an 80.
It's optimal. It's the optimal overlap between grades and cup sizes. So we like that. And we're not going to really do any serious predictions right now for season 3 because the 7 knows that, yeah, we're going to have plenty of time between now and season 3 to do that. So we're not going to worry about it too much. But in fact, let's make that our first and only prediction here. We'll get to more on the wrap up show. But Jamie G, on what date will the season 3 finale? Jamie G, on what date will the season 3 premiere of House of the Dragon air?
Oh man. I'm gonna say I'm gonna manifest this into existence. I'm gonna say April 2025.
April 2025. All right, here, let me specify that more. Sundays in April. 5th or 2025, you said, not 2026?
Well, I'm sorry, 2026. April of
2026. Okay,
2026.
okay, okay.
April of
So Sundays
2026.
in 2026, April 5th, 12th, 19th, 26th.
April 19th, 2026.
April 19th, 2026. You are very optimistic. I am going with them doing a little bit of a post-Christmas thing. Sunday, December 27th, 2026. That's kind of fucking depressing, all right?
That really sucks, dude. That's like I mean, I know Christmas is like tomorrow, but that's like 2 Christmases away, dude. That's pretty
That's 2
brutal.
Christmases away from the Christmas that's still tomorrow away, so
Yes, that's not great, dude. I don't love it.
that's a couple of Macaulay Culkins. I don't know how many, but that's a few Macaulay Culkins. I don't know that many.
Yeah, it
I
is.
don't know the transition scale there.
Well, don't you worry because we'll be back for a season 2 wrap-up episode real soon or whenever we get to it. But don't worry, we won't make you wait 2 years like the show's going to make us wait. Thank you again for checking out Flagons and Dragons. It's been a blast doing this all season. For despite not loving the season finale, it was a great season. We had a lot of fun doing it. We enjoy talking about it. We enjoy breaking it down, and we mostly enjoy having you along for the ride. Speaking of ride, drop a comment ASAP below and then hop on your dragon or send a raven for just something. But get your ass over into our DMs. like you're going to Mars. Get there and get there now, and let us know what you thought about this and what you're most looking forward to heading into season 3. Mills will let you know where you can find us on the social medias and all of the data points.
Yes, sir. Send those three-eyed ravens to Mars, but just remember when you're going to Mars, you can only stay 2 weeks if you're bringing any fruits or vegetables onto the planet. Very total recall of you. Thanks again for checking out Flagons and Dragons, presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff. Same place on the web, dudeswatchstuff.com. We try to keep it easy to remember, just like those flaps. FLAPS. It rhymes with success. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please remember to hit that thumb. I'm Magnum Mills. That's Jamie G. We'll be back for the wrap-up thing. Holla, holla, holla for the goddamn dollar. Have fun. Thanks for checking us out. See you next time.
And our flagons may be empty. And honestly, I think Joe Boo is going to need a refill after that finale. Hell, we might be hoisting flagons of bourbon for the wrap-up episode. Tune in and find out then.
That will be locally sourced from Harlan County. Good Harlan County bourbon.